Hello and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'm glad to welcome you to episode 24. Today is January 7th, 2014, and Happy New Year! Yay! Yesterday was really ridiculously cold, and today is less ridiculously cold, but still ridiculously cold. So I'm all bundled up. I hope you guys don't mind. And I am recording in a completely different location than the last time. My living room and dining room are sort of torn apart right now. So we ended up moving the couch into the bedroom, and there is no room darker than the bedroom. And since it's really cold, the upstairs is really cold, and it's cold enough in the dining room. We're actually in the dining room right now. Yeah, there's a bookshelf in the dining room, whatever. They're my books. I like them. So this weekend, my in-laws are coming out to help us paint because, well, the dark brown color, oops, wrong way. This dark brown color is very dark, so instead it will become a buttery yellow, and it will be lovely. Or I'm hoping so. One of my tasks for today is to finish sanding the walls. It appears that this house is 95 years old. It's more of a responsibility. You don't want to screw it up. But the walls were we're sanding away, whatever, to get rid of the high spots on the walls before painting. And I think it's always been that way because we're sanding down to the plaster. No one bothered before. So we're in the process of sanding down, filling in the low spots, and getting rid of the high spots before we paint. Because the sins will be harder to hide with a lighter color, which may have been why it was painted so dark in the first place. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Let me show you a finished object first. Actually, I have two finished objects this week. I will show you the easy ones first. So, I am mailing these off. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but one of the women who hangs out in a group I like to frequent, I believe it was the case where she got colon cancer, they operated on her, and then after the operation she got sepsis. So she was in a coma, which was dreadful, and we ended up finding out through one of the other women, and it appears that she's going to make it out. They had her on a breathing tube and they started to take her off, and at this point she is speaking, so that's really good. But Adrienne, who is also known as Belly Button Knits, this is Adrienne, who's also known as Belly Button Knits on Ravelry, and she's a designer. Probably, I knit her pattern earlier, or whatever, I knit her pattern, I guess, back in October, I think, maybe earlier, which was the Jamaican Me Crazy, and probably her most popular pattern is Margaritaville. So, as like a show of support and happiness, I knit these cute little mini socks for her, and so Debbie, I'll have to link it in the show notes, but if you PM Debbie, who has a Ravelry name that starts with C, something like that, she is collecting these mini socks. She's going to turn them into a garland for Adrienne. So I don't know what's the best way to show these guys. They are very cute and very wee. So I had this rainbow colored yarn. It turned out that when you knit socks this small, it doesn't really create a rainbow pattern. So I knit this from both ends, and then I knit this sock from the remainder of both ends. And this was something, maybe they took like 40 minutes a piece, which is sort of ridiculous considering how little, how small they are. And this is the Sock Knitters, with the K is shared between the sock and the knitters, mini sock, and I believe it's by Linda Nelson. And that was just the suggested pattern for the garland. So these will be going out in the mail soon, so that's why they were in an envelope. And then I have my name shoved in there so that Adrienne knows that I knit them. So it was really sad to hear that she was sick. So hopefully this will cheer her up, and whatever be a show of love and support for her. So already has a stamp, already ready to go, and that'll be exciting. The other thing that I finished, which I haven't blocked yet, it's still chaos. I haven't even woven in the ends, but it's done. I was casting this off on the show last week, but this is Walk on the Moon. Woo! I don't even know if I can get far enough away. Scooch back. So this is Walk on the Moon. It is made out of Blue Mice Lace in the I'm Shard, a Rat, the Chim Chim Chimney, and the Pistazi colorway. And it is big. Look how big it is. And I really do need to block it, but it's really dusty and messy upstairs, and I haven't really had the brain space yet to clean up there. So that is that. So it has a nice little ruffly edge. I'm hoping with blocking that it'll stay down better. And I ended up pulling out my lace stash, and I do want to knit, I do really want to knit another. I don't know if it'll be the case where I have this colorway. This is also Wool Mice Lace. This is my, I think it's Briar Rose. It is a Elizabeth Freeman pattern, free, and it's fabulous. It's actually a stole, but I wear it as a scarf because it's really big. Otherwise, I could only artfully wear it as a toga. So it's done. Hoorah. So I'm hoping, I'm guessing that it'll probably grow a bit with the blocking. And I probably should get on it, but yay! So this turned out lovely, and I do want to knit another one, and it may be soon. Maybe when I finish my sweater. So that leads to works in progress. I have two. Trying to keep things sane by only having two. Oh, let me quick grab something. So last week I hadn't even cast on. It was a little bit late for the cow, but I did cast on, and this is the swatch. This is for Halalea, which is a design by Mel of Single Handed Knits. It is out of Mustache Hella Biscayne, which is from Stacy of the Mustache podcast. And this is what I have going on here. So I have the lace pattern. I don't know, the swatch is a little bit sloppy, I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to figure out a better way of binding off. It turned out using larger needles was the right answer. And I want to make smaller buttonholes, so at some point I'll have to pull out the principles of knitting and figure out how. Because I realized I needed a different bind off because this one is too tight. But I bound off in the needles I used for the knitting, and apparently you have to go up a size. So I'm hoping that that'll work because it does give the swatch a shark fin appearance. And I basically got gauge, and I decided to cast on for a size in between the small and the medium. The sweater's supposed to have negative ease, but I really, there are like 4-inch spacings between each of the sizes, and so it just seemed like the right amount was in between small and medium instead of choosing one or the other. So this is the back. I am still working away on it. I have, probably 8 more rows to go before I need to look at the pattern again. And what's interesting about it is it's actually starting at the waist, at the narrowest part of your waist, and then you'll end up picking up stitches and knitting down for the bottom. So it's really interesting and fun construction. I think as of yesterday we were supposed to be started on the fronts, but obviously I'm not there yet. It'll probably go a lot faster once I stop increasing. I'm hopeful. And it hasn't seen too much love, but that is because it's really cold. So, and not because I'm not knitting on it because it's cold, but more that there are other things that I need more than I need a whatever heavy or a light fingering heavy lace weight sweater. So that is the story there. So far I'm enjoying the knitting. I know that I can handle everything that's going on. I haven't ever knit between a pattern size before, but I'm not scared. So I think gauge calls for 28, and I'm coming in at 27, so I think everything will work out. I'm aiming for like 1 inch negative ease, so we'll see what happens. I think after once I get the fronts, or once I get all of those top pieces done, then I'm going to be seaming it together. And once it's seamed together, then I'll do the knitting the bottom part and stuff like that, and sleeves. I think the sleeves are also sewn in. I'm not sure. I guess I would have to read the pattern again and figure out what's going on. And I also found, I am drinking the hazelnut coffee, which is from Strauss of Ohio, and I am using almond milk as my creamer, and the almonds plus hazelnuts is really, really good. I have been drinking so much coffee. Well, it's cold, so coffee has been my warm drink of choice the past couple of days. So, what has been taking up a decent amount of my attention is this mitt. Here, let me put it on. I ended up waiting a little bit and watch some podcasts so that I could get to this stage of mittery, because I've ripped this out and gone back and forth on it so many times. So this is the mitt. Let's see if we can give a good representation of it. Want this one? I don't even know. So this is the mitt. It is out of handmade Casbah in, I forgot the colorway. I'll have to look that up on Ravelry. Can you guys even see the pattern? Yeah, you can see the pattern, sort of. I'm doing this on 1.5s. I don't have double points in 1.5s, otherwise I probably would be using double points. Excuse me, and I have ripped this back so many times. I was planning on doing the pattern from Pomadamus, but because it is a pretty heavy, they call it a fingering. It seems more like a sport to me. So I tried all of these different variations on the Pomadamus pattern, and it just wasn't working with the Pomadamus pattern. So then, and then a couple different like stitch counts as well, so changing it around and trying to figure out, but it was either too loose or too tight, so I just had to give it a rest and try something different. So I ended up pulling the pattern from my, I ended up doing a variation on my featherweight that used this thing called the cabled collar chart. And so I'm like, oh, that's a cool looking cable thing in one by one twisted rib. So I ended up going with that. And I did a couple variations to try to figure out what was going on there. So I decided to only put the cables on the back of the hand, and then I did a little variation on it where I did this really complicated cable in the wrist area, which, can you guys even, can you see? I don't even know. And I was debating whether or not I wanted to do more cable action, and I've decided to not do more cable action. I'm probably going to knit another 1.5 inches of 1x1 rib and then start thinking about the fingers. So these are keeping my, these are to keep my hands warm. I lost my hand warmers, and I really want these to be done. And I'm finally glad I've come across something that works. So it's been interesting doing whatever, the design of this, trying to figure out exactly what it is that I need in order to have a functional little knit. So I've borrowed and pulled from a lot of different things, so it's interesting to see how it's coming together. So this is the first one. Now that I'm finally making headway on it, I'm excited. I did a slightly different increase on the thumb. Well, I guess I'll have to just take it off. So instead of increasing on the edges, what I did was I increased from the middle, so it ends up creating this V pattern of increases, which was pretty cool. And then after I finish doing, I don't know if I'll knit the fingers or the thumb first, who knows. I have plenty of yarn, that's not going to be an issue, so my last pair of fingerless mitts was from 50 grams, so I'm assuming that I'll have ample here. I don't know whether or not I wanted this to be longer or not, but too late now. I'm sort of tired of ripping back. So this is going to have to work. So I'm glad that I have this little mirrored pattern going on, and we'll see how it comes together. So that is the story there. And that's all I'm working on knitting-wise. I have done, as far as spinning is concerned, I haven't started any new projects, and that is because I really need to watch the fleece. Last week I did a lot of podcast watching. I ended up finally catching up with Diane of Knittables. So now I'm all caught up, and so whenever she decides to record an episode, I'm there. It turned out that I got caught up with Diane, and I still had more hay to pick out. So I ended up starting to watch the Knit Girls all over again. So I started from the beginning, and there are lots of interesting tidbits that I hadn't realized, like now that I know them. It was very interesting to go back and be like, oh, that piece of information and that other piece of information. So I'm a stalker. But I've gotten all the hay out, so now it's just a matter of boiling water and dumping it in with fiber, with detergent. And hopefully it goes faster. One of my mistakes from when I processed the first 10 ounces that I got was that I didn't get all of the hay out early on, and so it just made it a lot harder to clean because there was all this hay and dirt in there. So I picked through it first and tried to get it, I don't know, I'd say 90% of the way there before I started, and then I picked out all the seconds. And so I started with 34 ounces. I'm now down to 27.6 ounces. So that is, and I believe that I can go down to, what is it? I can lose up to 24.5 ounces, I think, and still have 32 ounces total of fiber. So hopefully it doesn't, the grease, what is it? The fleece does have a funky sort of sheepy or odor to it. I'm just hoping that it isn't a lot of grease and that most of my loss from my first round was from seconds, because there was a lot of seconds and a lot of hay. So that might be a task for today, we'll see, or if it'll be something where I go back and forth between sanding and boiling wool. But I do have 2 finished skeins of yarn to show you guys, so isn't that cool? I ended up finishing the Polworth for my mother-in-law, so that'll be going with her this weekend. And it is, oh, I didn't look up the yardages on this. Whatever, it's no big deal. This is, this turned out to be about 380 yards of a 2-ply. So it's coming in at about sport weight. Let's see, how do I want to show this to you guys? So it's coming in at about a sport weight. And it is many, many different shades of blue. This is fiber optic Polworth, and it is in a unique once-in-a-lifetime colorway. So blacks and blues, and there's lighter parts and darker parts. And it turned out really pretty and really to my taste, but it's going to my mother-in-law, so love you, Jenny. She ended up buying this fiber at Rhinebeck because I offered to spin it for her, and I did. I have another braid left to go, which is going to be a part of the Spin the Bin challenge. So hopefully it isn't too ridiculously thin for her. I was trying to relax and be chill about spinning it, so I don't know, I just really like how it ended up turning out. I did a fractal spin to it, even though it's really very subtle, the fractaliness of it all, but I think it ended up making it whatever. That definitely hand spun but really cool look to it. The other thing that I finished, so I find since I got my Knitty Naughty back, I was able to skein up my Fat Cat Knits BFL. So this is the finished skein of that. And I did a good wash and thack, and I think I miscounted initially, but this is like 325 yards of out of 3 ounces. It is Navajo plied. It is variegated BFL in the Let's Go Crazy colorway, and so it's purples, oranges, greens, and teals. And I've been working on this for a pretty long time, considering I think I had started this sometime in early September, but it's a lot of fun. Initially I thought I had gone 350 yards, but I think that was just a total math fail. I'm not even sure how the magnitude of the math fail. So it is it's a wee bit heavier than, for example, a 400 yard, 100 gram skein of sock yarn. But I think it will probably work. And that I'll actually have plenty of yarn to knit a pair of hand-spun, hand-knit socks out of. And now that I know, like, whatever, I spun this guy in 2 weeks. This one took more like 4 months. this was way thinner, but that still doesn't really excuse the fact that it just took way, way longer. So I haven't really been setting aside a lot of time to spin, which is why, what is it? This has been weeks and weeks and weeks of the same thing. So the hope is to maybe get the singles done for the second half much faster. And here is the second half. It's been hanging out in the fiber optic bag, but just because I don't really want to rough it up too much. Oh, here's the tag for the fiber optic yarn. Oops. So there's that. And that ended up being 4 1/4 ounces, which was pretty cool. So this is what's coming up as soon as I wash the fleece, because I really need to get that out. So the spindle's empty, it's ready to go. It's just a matter of doing this unpleasant task that I don't really want to do. Oh. And I'm hoping to get some more experience doing the Navajo playing, because I really want to do justice to this guy. And this is the indigo to emerald gradient, or fiber optics, indigo to, oh, the purple is not showing up very purple at all, is it? It's showing up really blue. But I'm thinking that I do need more experience before I do the 3-ply again. And probably something to work on for the Hat Cat knits is to be better about joins when my Navajo ply breaks, and to never be consistent and stuff like that. So learning, I have some to do. And that is all the spinning. I'm not even going to bother to show you my dirty but less hay-infested fleece. And so the last thing I wanted to show, oh, it's so big and heavy, is where I'm at with the weaving. My hand was trapped between the dreadful metal. So this is where I'm at. I can see that I'm getting pretty close to the end. I ended up doing a couple more inches of weaving this week. So Monday is knit night with my Lafayette peeps, and one of the knitters from Lafayette is really curious about my loom. So because I'm not going to have time to warp the stupid thing again, I just sort of want to keep this project on until I show her, and then she can try it out and figure out if she really hates rigid heddle looms. So maybe it turns out that a 2 harness or a 4 harness is the best thing for her. And I don't know, it seems like it's coming together nicely. I can probably get away with a decent amount of weaving before I get too close to the end. But I did want to leave it up for her so that if she felt like trying it, it was possible. And I have crazy weaving plans, but it's going to take, a little bit of legwork in order to make it happen. So I've been looking up what my family's tartan pattern is, because I think it'd be really interesting to try weaving it. But you do need a 4 harness in order to make a tartan plaid. And it's really dead simple. It's just a matter of warping and then doing the stripes correctly. And I think it would be really awesome to do. But I do not have all of the colors, so it would be helpful to have all of the colors before I started that. And I would have to figure out how to convert the loom to the, I would have to figure out how to convert the loom to for harness. Like, all the pieces are there, but it will be at least some work in order to do that. So, we shall see. That's sort of been my idle pondering sorts of things. And there are all sorts of really cool patterns that you can make with the two harness, so I don't know if I'll do another two harness pattern and then go on to this more complicated thing, I guess, while waiting for yarn to come in or something. Because I would need pretty thin yarn, because this particular reed is, what is it? I would need pretty thin yarn in order to make it work. So that is the story there. But who knows how much time I'll have. If I end up completely running out of time when school gets started, that is starting the 13th. And I probably need to order textbooks and all that other fun stuff. So I need to, so who knows how much time I'm going to have. Purdue is still closed. They ended up calling being closed at 6 p.m. last night because the county is in a state of emergency because of the snow and the cold. So it's something where I haven't even needed to go onto campus because, well, because no one's going to be there. So because of that, I guess I'm chilling until then. It looks like they'll probably open things up tomorrow, so that will be good. And I ended up not recording yesterday because my husband was around all day and he had just all sorts of ideas about what should be happening, and podcasting wasn't one of those. So I shoot him up the door. Go, go, go. I need some alone time. So, let's see. Anything else I want to talk about? I suppose the only other thing that I'd like to talk about today was we were talking a little bit in the last episode thread about an interesting group activity. So I actually sat down and figured out how much I knit in a year. I just ended up graphing all my projects and put a date down for when I'd finished them and how much yardage they were. And it seems like I'm actually pretty consistent. It felt like I'd done very little knitting this year. And I probably actually did a little bit less than I did in years past, which makes sense because I started spinning. So it turned out to be, I don't know, like 30 yards a day of knitting. And about 5 and change of spinning. That wasn't nearly as linear because my long-standing projects seem to take a very long time indeed. So I don't know if it would be fun to organize a calendar where basically we wager how much we're going to knit between now and the 31st of March, and then encourage each other to meet our goals. And that's the easiest cal because it's the cal that you were going to do anyways. But maybe with the added bonus of, say, for example, if you are disgusted with the amount of stash that you have, which isn't really the case with me, but that you only knit that wager from your stash or something like that. So I didn't know if there was interest. If there is interest, then I'd be happy to start a thread. And basically that would just be an informal knit along for everyone. I'm, what is it, like for right now, I don't really have the headspace or the willingness to commit to do something more complicated than that, but I thought that that would be a lot of fun, where I can probably just put down like your name and then how much you're wagering to knit, and then you keep track of how much you do. So it'd be maybe a little bit like Stash Stash, but with less lofty of a goal. I think it turned out that for me, that would be 2,500 yards in 3 months, which is way less than the 4,000 yards for Stash Dash. Oh man, I don't even know how I made that. Surprises, who knows? Maybe I did have more than, oh, I know how I made that, because I had an even star. Big blip there. So that is the story there. So I'd say, what is it? Working on the sweater, working on the gloves. I think when I finish, I'll have to finish the sweater before I can cast on another Walk on the Moon. But I do want to cast on another Walk on the Moon, so. But I have that needle problem. I seem to only want to, I do have an extra pair of 3s, though. So maybe I'll get caught up on the Hallelujah Cal today, and then figure out from there if I want to cast on a Walk on the Moon in different needles, because it was really satisfying knit, and I want to do it again. I want one in different colors. So that is the story there. As far as recording schedule's going, I was hoping to record Sunday, which is the 12th, but it's looking bad. So instead, I think I'm going to try recording on Tuesday, the 14th, and hopefully that will work out. It looks like my schedule, as far as my schedule is concerned, I have Tuesdays completely off, and Thursdays are mostly off. So I don't know if I'm going to be going into campus on those days. So because of that, I'm thinking that a Tuesday or Thursday recording schedule would be just about right. Because it is sort of hard to record when my husband's around. I did do it last time, but it tends to be that when we get to be together, we are very together. So that is the story there. So we'll plan for the 14th, and maybe I will have finished my woven scarf by then, or stole, or whatever the hell it is. It's gonna be a beast, and it's gonna be very blue. Yay! So I hope you all have a lovely week, and please feel free to comment if you'd be interested in a wager cal, or knit along / spin along. So until next week, bye bye.